Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. This is Extreme TV, and I'm your host, Rob. I'm broadcasting live from the Pinos Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. And I have a very special guest with me tonight, and that's Christy. Good evening, Christy. How are
Hello. Good. How are you? Thank you for having me. Sorry. I'm like, hello.
you? Good evening. Thank you for being a part of this, too. Congratulations on your subscription numbers. Why don't you briefly
Thank
tell
you.
people what you do, how you do it, and how they can get a hold of you if they're so interested after listening to tonight?
I don't have a regular schedule. I just randomly do live streams. I'm so bad at like selling yourself. That's kind of bad too. I'm sorry, but
It's an
honestly,
organic schedule, I know.
you can reach me on Twitter if that's pretty much where I just post everything with how YouTube is and with any how it might allegedly be. Just posting stuff. I retweet a lot of people's live streams and stuff like that just to get the awareness and stuff like that out.
Nice. Yeah, tonight we just wanted to hop on for a little bit and just go over maybe the first 3 or 4 episodes of this really, as we talked about offline, batshit crazy show called
Hmm.
Tiger King on Netflix. So let me ask you first, how did you become aware of it and what made you want to see this show?
Because like I was telling you, so I saw it advertised on Netflix. At the time, it wasn't. If you go on Netflix now, it's like it's like number one trending. It has been for about a week, but I just saw it and I was like, "What the heck is this?" And so I saw that it's Saturday night, like 10, 11 o'clock, and I stayed up the entire night watching this. And I was so engrossed by it. I was like, I got to watch this again. So that's all I did on Sunday, and it's amazing. I was like, damn, people really live like this. It's crazy.
Yeah, and to me, I see that Ed Brewer joined us. This is near his neck of the woods. I
Hmm.
grew up here in Central Florida and a resident lifelong, and I was aware of who this cat lady was. And for me, I was doing some chores around the house. I think I just finished watching something on Netflix, and so the trailer popped up for it, and I thought it was like a dumb comedy or something stupid. I didn't pay it any mind, but then it kept sticking in my head. Wait a minute, Florida cat lady, cat rescue, and I looked it up, and then I heard it's trending live on Netflix. It's number one. It's the craziest thing. 98% approval. I'm like, what the hell is this? So I
Uh-huh.
rewatched the trailer, and I said, okay, I think I'll give this a shot. And this is the only way I could explain it, just topically, for anybody that hasn't seen it yet. We're not trying to give too many spoilers. It's only, I think, 7 episodes. It's a documentary, and for me, it's got any of the kind of, it's got weird characters, it's got murder, it's got mystery, it's got missing millionaires, it's got cults, it's got redneck trash, it's got every sort of non-PC element into it, except for supposedly this is real life, and most of it's documented that way. And I think it's pretty interesting because um, there are shows that and movies that you can watch, like say Talladega Nights. It's more fun talking about the movie than watching it. It just is.
Hmm.
But this is a movie that you're watching it, and my wife is like, "This is really strange and weird." I'm like, "Yeah, I know," but when you start thinking about what's really going on, it's insane. I mean, you've got a guy with 2 husbands right off the bat, with that's a drug meth guy, and they're not maybe really gay, but they are at the time they're married. And he's got this whole vendetta because he's in prison now, putting the hit out on the lady that poor woe was me, but everyone says no, she fed her husband to the lions. And then you got the cult guy, the Scarface guy, you've got this other guy that just got introduced, and I'm not even up to the lawyers yet. And I'm like, this is nuts. I mean, let me ask you about Carol, the lady that has the big cat rescue. You think she whacked her husband? Yes or no? And tell me what's going on there, because I think she's the
Okay.
most evil one.
I see. I personally think so. Yes, I truly do. Well, something's going on there. You people have to admit that it's kind of weird, the circumstances where he disappeared and supposedly that there. Oh, we're not trying to do spoilers. That she just got everything type thing. It's weird. I will say that. If she fed them to the tigers, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, and to me with her, I always try to go back to human nature with certain things. And not trying to get too deep, but this is what makes this show really, really great on Netflix. Is one, because the characters are great. There's really not much of a plot because it's a documentary. You're watching things
Mhm.
unfold with the timeline. It starts off with Joe Exotic, the gay drug lord with the two husbands, in jail for putting the hit out on it. And so they do this, what I call a circle back, where they start in the future, they go back a few years, and then they build up until we get to present time. At least that's what I assume is going to happen at the end. So we get introduced to some of the characters that work with him and everything. And this guy is a legit character. But here's the thing with Carol. Carol's this young girl that says she was raped when she was 14, left her house, meets this dude who says, okay, if you won't hop in my car, to drive around, just talk, here's my gun. You can sit in my truck with me and hold it on me while we just talk or something. I'm like, that's weird. That's bizarre. And he's older and he's rich. And,
Mhm.
he's got gazillions of dollars and he's a playboy. No, he's not playboy. He works hard and he plays hard, as we would say down here in Florida. And then all of a sudden he disappears to Costa Rica because maybe he's got some Costa Rican mistress. I'm not buying it. Somebody would have found him. He would have won his money. His ego, I don't think, would have allowed for how hard he would have worked for his money, because he didn't inherit the money. He made it. I think she got him whacked. I think she had a hand in it. I think she knows everything that's going on. And I just go, yeah, maybe not in the meat grinder, but I'm sure those Crocs might have had a really good meal. This is just nuts. And it's like, I want to know. That's the beautiful thing about it. It left me wanting to know more. Well, I mean, what do you think about all this goofiness?
It's. I mean, I hate to keep saying that it's crazy, but it's crazy. It you were he. I mean, can we talk a little bit of spoilers since you've kind
Sure.
of watched at least the first episode? So
Hmm.
he ran for president in 2016,
Yeah, but Mickey Mouse gets a
and
bunch of votes too.
and then because Joe Exotic is in Oklahoma. So I heard about Joe Exotic in the 90s because he would do the traveling like zoo type thing, and he came to the mall when I was a kid.
Okay.
So I was just like, why do I know this name? And so I'm just looking at my searching the history of the mall here, and I was like, that's him. And he's crazy. I mean, he's the Lisa Frank binders from the 90s.
Yes.
When I see his shirts, that's what I think of. Are those the Lisa Frank binders from the 90s where it had the Trapper Keepers, where it had all the like the glittery,
Yes.
flamboyant colors and stuff like that. So I cannot get away from his shirts and those
Definitely
binders.
a
So
swishy vibe, as we would.
yes, yes.
When I look at him, what freaks me out is, at first I thought, oh, he looks like Gangrel from the Brood from the old WWE days. But I thought, no, he's just a skinny version of um, WCW, the Playboy guy with Scott Steiner, Buff Bagwell. And I'm looking at him going, I cannot see Buff Bagwell every time I see the guy's face, obviously not his body.
Mhm.
And that's kind of weird in itself. But yeah, and I mean, the whole story centers around him and the fact that he got so enraged about what was going on that, he ends up in jail because he puts the hit on it. So it kind of unravels. And it's interesting to me because I like the fact that they've fleshed out enough of it where they keep your appetite wanting to know more, but then they introduce the cult guy, as he's known, the guy that seems to be the most, not civilized, but he seems to be the most emotionally stable individual, professionally speaking, out of all these weirdos,
Yeah.
because he did the animals for Ace Ventura and a few other movies, not 500 like he said, but at least a few that are acknowledged. But he
Mhm.
legitimately has a harem, and I don't see anything evil with what he's doing per se. These young women are attracted to a certain type of guy, and he tells them what to do, and you hear about it all, and they work to the bone, but they find a sense of self in that community, and that probably freaks a lot of people out these days. But I'm looking at all these people going, yeah, they seem like they're the fringes of society, but we all somehow know somebody who knows somebody, 6 degrees of separation or whatever, of somebody that knows something about these kinds of things. And so I don't find it this all that far fetched. Do you?
No, I don't. And going back to the whole thing, because the reason why kind of he's so enraged with Carol is because he basically breeds and sells the big cats.
Mm-hmm.
but she does the kind of the same exact thing where the whole zoo charging admission, taking pictures. So I'm just like, huh?
She's the easy, holier than thou
Yes.
a character in all this, I would say.
Yes. Absolutely.
Well, well, let me ask you this. I mean, so far through the first 3 to 4 episodes, we've seen most of Joe's compound, and I'm an animal guy. Oh, I've had like my eighth, ninth dogs. I've done volunteer work in shelters before a couple times with dogs, and there's a shelter fatigue phenomenon that goes on. If anybody's worked, they know what I'm talking about. So it's not always what you see, and I'm always reminded too, knowing people that have been in the TV movie industry, they've always said, "Hey, anything on TV, anything on movies, it's scripted," and I agree. So when I see Joe's Place, it looks actually fairly decent, and I've been to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
zoos around the world. When I see the Harem Guys grounds, fantastic, looks good. When I see hers, I haven't seen enough, but it looks like it's only on a couple acres, and it's probably adequate, I would suppose. But my
Mm-hmm.
first thought was, oh, she did the exact same thing, and now she's got this guy's money, so she can be holier than now. And the thing that makes me think she's evil is not that she probably whacked her husband; it's the fact that she remarried this. Or not re, she remarried this guy who's basically everything opposite of what her first husband was. And any woman I've known that's married that and escaped from it or gotten away from it marries this type of guy that's a simp that will roll over and lay there
Mm-hmm.
and everything else. And that's what this guy comes across like. And I'm like, everybody's getting what they deserve in the show, and I don't really like any of them. And that's what makes it so fascinating. I'm not rooting for anybody.
No, you're not. If more than anything, I think you root for how they kind of play it with, to me, with like Joe's employees. I was just like, you're kind of sympathetic to them and stuff like that. Well, at least I was, but that's about it.
The lady that lost her arm because she stuck it through the
Yes.
fence and came back like a week later, I believe
Yep.
that. I mean, I know people that, first thing they do when they get hurt is they want to get like back on ride the horse again, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I found her somewhat coherent. And then the Scarface guy, holy crap. I mean, I don't know if you see more of him in episodes 5, 6, and 7, but so far, this guy legitimately is supposed to be the inspiration for the whole thing with Scarface, the movie back in the 80s, which,
Yeah.
Miami and
I've
everything.
seen, I've seen, that's the reason I'm kind of, I don't want to, because you haven't seen all of them, and I've seen
Correct.
it. I've seen this thing 3 times, and
Jeez.
so, I mean, it sucks you in, but I
Yeah,
was just like, no way, and he, well, no, I don't want to say that because
we'll see more of him, is what you're saying.
yeah, okay, yeah, you'll see more of him, but I don't want, never mind. I don't
Okay.
want to give it away, but I mean,
No.
it really was the inspiration for Scarface, and I was like, "There's no way." Well,
We had here in Central Florida back in the day an urban legend called the Fairvilla Gorilla. And where it's kind of interesting is of course, before the advent of air conditioning, people from up north, especially rich people, old money, would buy summer homes in
mhm.
places like we have a small town here, technically not in Orlando, but on the outskirts, called Winter Park, that people would buy, and it's old money. And this whole Fairvilla Gorilla thing was basically how do you say it? It was an urban legend, but there were people that retired from Ringling Brothers Bar and Bailey Circus over, I think, in the Sarasota area, a little south of where Ed's from, in the town and country, greater Tampa area, near where this is all at. And people have exotic things here in Florida, fish, iguanas, overrun, a lot of invasive species. So there have been one or two that got loose, and you think here in Florida that it'd be insane to see a baboon or an ape running around in suburbanville, but occasionally it does happen. And I've literally hit a bear or two in my lifetime going to the tennis court in my car. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff around here on the outskirts, but it's just amazing because like, oh, this is all nonsense. It's all going to be hype about the animals, and this show has got nothing to do with the animals. The animals are just the convenient thing that they're all about. It's really about all these whack jobs, and all I'm trying to do is go, okay, well, this one's consistent with their character, their moral beliefs. I can totally believe the fire that happened that burned all the footage up was
Mm-hmm.
I'm not buying any of that at all. So there's just all these little elements, and the fact that it's only maybe about an hour an episode, if that, it, like I say, it leaves you wanting more. And this is the kind of material that I've said on previous streams, like on Xtreme TV and others, that I think Netflix would do a more successful long-term job in doing, because it doesn't cost a lot. It's a micro budget. It's intriguing, and now it's done. And I'm sure they're going to talk about a season 2 or something based off of it because it's that
I
hot.
hope they do. I hope that oh, it'd be so glorious if this was a season 2. But are do you know about the whole, like, when when they're feeding the tigers? Or did you watch that part where the cost and stuff like that?
Well, I've always heard about that, with the cost of them and feeding them, and how they would scrounge for food. I worked my way through college in grocery stores, so I saw how much
Mhm.
waste went out the back door, literally. And there's a whole ecosystem, if you want to call it that, a society, if you will, of bums and people coming out there and vagrants. And not even that. There were still a few people here in Pine Hills that had some acreage and farms, and they would come and take stuff from the back because we couldn't give it to them for liability reasons, but they'd use it for feed and whatnot. So
Mhm.
that's where all this stuff I'm going. Yeah, I bet they would love human flesh, especially millionaire flesh. Well, the show doesn't come across. It's not hyped at you like, oh, watch everybody like it's a Jerry Springer show or daytime TV trash. It's not
Mhm.
like it. That's what just sucked me in. The subtle nature of it. It's just, hey, here it is. We just watch it, and it's like, okay. And then you think about what's going on, and it literally is insane. So yeah, 4 episodes in, it's getting really, really dark. Pretty much, he's lost his mind. Joe has, and he's going to do some bad stuff. They're going through the depositions. You've heard about how evil Carol is with litigation and the money and everything. So I'm going, yeah, she had him whacked. I mean, the simplest explanation usually is the one that it works most of the time. And
Mhm.
I just think she is. So I'm looking forward to seeing the past few episodes. We'll see about reviewing those. But let me ask you, as we finish up here, what would you tell anybody that hasn't seen it why they should see it?
I mean, everything is basically shut down. I mean, you can't go watch a movie. You can do Disney Plus, but this is so much better.
I'd much rather watch this than Disney.
Exactly. Who cares about the Lion King remake, the live action remake? Watch this. It has lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my.
Okay, well, I want to say thanks to Ed for showing up and everybody else who's listening. I want to thank you, Christy, of course, for showing up tonight and sharing some of your time with us tonight here on the Xtreme TV show here. We're going to hop off here in just a moment. I want to thank everybody. If you haven't heard, 500 subs. I appreciate everybody that's shared, liked, subscribed, gotten the word out here. We're growing pretty fast. I'm looking forward to doubling that here in the next 6 months to a year or so, hopefully sooner. We'll see how it goes. But with guests like Christy on reviewing stuff like this Tiger King, I don't see how we can fail. So thanks everybody for listening. Stay extreme. Good night.
Night.